Hello, my name is Brian Crocker. Welcome to our Facebook Live. This is Pan's Trivia Challenge. This worked so well with our last webinar, we decided to try it in this format as well. The format is going to be, the question will come up on the screen, and there will be either 3 or 4 potential answers, and each answer has a letter of the alphabet associated with it. And the idea would be that you figure out which answer you think is correct and then post that answer in the chat box. I want everyone to do their best. And after we figure out which the right answer is, I will take a few moments to talk about why in most cases. So here's our first question. Education is required for all notaries every blank years. And the answers are A, 6, B, 8, C, 4, and D, notary education is only required for first-time notaries. And I see Lori got the answer right. Answer is C, 4 years. That is true. Every notary needs to have education every 4 years right before they start their next commission. There was at one time a grandfather clause that exempted notaries who were notaries on July 1st, 2003. That exemption went away with the passage of Rulona back on October 26th, 2017. So, we're ready for the next question. If a notary's commission expires before they apply for reappointment, they are required to take the notary exam. So A is true and B is false. And Lori gets that correct. That is true. Many people think that the examination is only for first-time notaries. That is not true. It is for anybody who applies for a notary commission when they don't have an active Pennsylvania notary commission. So that would include any reappointments whose commission has expired. Excellent. Ready for the next question. The $10,000 notary bond protects either A, the Department of State, B, the notary, or C, the customer. And Lori once again answered C. C is the $10,000 notary bond protects the customer, and that is correct. There are a lot of misconceptions that the bond is some kind of insurance policy that protects the notary. It does not. In fact, if you make a mistake that causes your customer to lose money and the customer makes a claim against your bond and the bonding company pays out on your behalf, you are then responsible to pay the bonding company back. So the bond protects the customer, not you, not the state. We're ready for the next question. The customer may sign a document and then appear before the notary for which notary act? A, acknowledgement, B, witnessing a signature, C, verification on oath or affirmation, or D, the customer must always sign in front of the notary. Do your best. Put your answer in the chat box. And Lisa got that one correct. This is tough for a lot of people, especially some reappointments. They get the impression that notaries always have to witness the customer sign. That's not the case. With an acknowledgement, the customer may sign the document in advance and then appear before the notary. The other notary acts, witnessing a signature, verification on oath or affirmation, both require you to witness the customer sign. So excellent work. Thank you for that. We're ready for the next question. A customer is permitted to sign another person's name when they are using a power of attorney. That's either A, true, or B, false. Waiting for that answer to pop up. And there it is. Rich got that one correct. The answer is B, false. When you sign, whether you are representing yourself or somebody else with a power of attorney or an organization, you will always sign your own name, never anybody else's name. If you sign somebody else's name, that would be considered to be forgery. So we're ready for the next question. Which item is not required in the notary journal? Again, this is which item is not required in the notary journal. The customer's full name and address, the customer's signature, that's B, and C, the customer's document title or type. So which of those three things, A, the customer's full name and address, B, the customer's signature, or C, the customer's document title or type, which of those things is not required when you make a journal entry? And Janice got that one right. It is B, the customer's signature. A lot of people think that the customer signature is a requirement in the journal, mainly because other notary organizations that produce journals that can be used with any state that has journaling requirements. And there are states out there that require the customer's signature. So that's why some people think that the customer signature is required in the journal, but that has never been a requirement in Pennsylvania. We're ready for the next question. When witnessing or attesting a signature, which item is not part of the process? Again, you are working with witnessing or attesting a signature. What aren't you going to do? A, identifying the customer. B, watching the customer sign, or C, administering an oath to the customer. And Lori's back. She got that one right too. C, administering an oath to the customer is the correct answer. You do not administer an oath to the customer when witnessing or attesting a signature. Witnessing or attesting a signature was introduced to notaries in Pennsylvania when Rulona took effect on October 26, 2017, and it really is nothing more than notarizing someone's signature. Identification, witnessing them sign, comparing the signatures to the signature on the ID, completing the notary wording, and then signing, stamping, and making your journal entry. So excellent work again. We are ready for the next question. A notary is required to emboss every document they notarize. Is that true or is that false? Again, we want you to enter your choice in the comments, either A, true, or B, false. And Rich, you got that one right as well. You are not required to emboss every document that you notarize. B, false, is correct. In fact, no document needs to be notarized by a Pennsylvania notary because the notary law doesn't really say anything about an embossing seal. The last time the embossing seal was required was November 30th, 2003. No, June 30th, 2003. There we go. Dates don't matter. It was a long time ago. And then on July 1st, 2003, when the next law took effect, there was no mention of the embossing seal. And since then, it has not been mentioned in the law. It's not required, but some notaries choose to have one, namely because other states require it from their notaries. Other countries require their documents to be embossed. And there are just people out there that insist that you're wrong when you say the embossing seal is not required, but it's not. We're ready for the next question. If a customer draws lines through blank spaces on a document and initials the changes, you can go ahead and notarize. Is that true or is that false? Nance gets that one correct. A, true, because blank spaces are bad. If a document contains blank spaces that can be filled in later and you notarize, that's improper. But if the customer draws lines and initials the changes, the blank spaces are completed, and now you can notarize. Very good. Thanks for your correct answer. We are ready for the next question. You may notarize a document without notary wording. A, all the time. B, when the customer requests that service. Or C, you may not notarize a document without notary wording. May not notarize a document that does not have notary wording. Notary wording is always required. We always say at PAN that without notary wording, your signature and stamp are meaningless. Oftentimes, we see that notaries get penalized by the Department of State for stamping and signing documents that don't have notary wording on them. In fact, when I start my reappointment seminar, I talk about a notary that I met in Philadelphia, and that was exactly why she'd been penalized. She had to spend 6 hours with me in class as a part of a penalty for improperly notarizing one document that didn't have notary wording on it, and she'd been a notary for 30 years. So we are ready for the next question. Which item is not a form of acceptable identification? A, a birth certificate. B, a current Pennsylvania driver's license. C, a current New Jersey driver's license. D, a current foreign passport if you can read, write, and understand the language that it's written in. So which item is not acceptable as a form of identification? And there's Lori once again with the correct answer. A birth certificate is not acceptable as a form of identification. I know in the past in my classes, people have said, but how am I going to identify an Amish person if I can't take their birth certificate? Well, the law says that to accept ID, it must be government issued, current, not expired, contain either the customer's photograph or the customer's signature, and be satisfactory to the notary. I can tell you right off the bat that although a birth certificate is government issued, it technically is current if the person is living. It contains neither the customer's photograph nor the customer's signature. So it is definitely not acceptable. And we're ready for the next question. You must have met someone at least 10 times before using personal knowledge as a method of identification. That's either A, true, or B, false. Lisa got that one. B, false. Personal knowledge it's something that I can't define for you. You either know somebody or you don't. If you're sure of someone's identity beyond a shadow of a doubt, you can use personal knowledge, whether you've known them for a week, a month, a year, 10 years. A number of meetings does not enter into the equation. Now, before we move on to the next question, when we were talking about notary wording on the document, somebody had commented that, but you can add it to the document. And although that's true, that's a special situation. When a document doesn't have notary wording on it, you can't just add it. First of all, you need the customer's permission. Second of all, you don't know which act to perform, and that's up to the customer. They need to decide which act they want you to perform. So we are ready for the next question. To notarize over the internet, you must become a remote online notary, A. B, a space age notary, or C, Bill Gates. I had to have some fun. And Janice got that one right. The answer is A. To notarize for a remote customer over the internet, you must become a remote online notarization. That became a permanent part of the notary law in October of last year. It was temporary during the beginning of the pandemic. There's a lot that goes into it. If you want to find out more about becoming a remote online notary, go to the Department of State's website, dos.state. I shouldn't offer this information if I don't have it off the top of my head. So Google the Pennsylvania Department of State's website, go to the notary section, and then there's a plethora of reading about electronic and remote online notarization. If there's a class Pan offers that can make us all Bill Gates, I guess you want his money. Well, sometimes money isn't everything, right? So we're ready for the next question. Select the item that is not required for ID to be acceptable. Now, I just went over the standards a few moments ago, so maybe you'll get this one right pretty easily. So either A, be current, B, be government issued, C, contain a serial or identification number, D, contain a photograph or a signature, or E, be acceptable to the notary. Which one of those things is not required to make ID acceptable? Yeah, Emerson, a new person answering. Very good. Thank you, Emerson. C, that is correct. A serial or identification number is not required to make ID acceptable. Actually, under the old law that was in effect before Rulona, that was a requirement, but it is no longer. So excellent work once again. Everyone knows their stuff. So we're ready for the next question. You may refuse to notarize if the photograph on the ID does not look like the customer. Is that A, true, or B, false? Janice in the room again. That is A, true. Very good. There are a lot of people out there that think because we have the title public in our name that we can't tell them no. Now, remember, ID needs to be satisfactory to the notary. And if you're thinking that the picture on the ID is not of the person in front of you, you really don't have much of a choice but to say no. So excellent work once again. We're ready for, it looks like, the last question, which is a requirement to become a notary. A, live or work in Pennsylvania. B, be at least 16 years old. Or C, speak Spanish, which is a requirement to become a notary. Tracy, very good. A, to become a notary, one of the requirements is that you either need to live or work in Pennsylvania. There's a host of other requirements, but that's one of them. So I'm very proud of all of you. You put your notary knowledge to the test today, and you rose to the challenge. We're not finished yet. We have the room until 4:30. So at this point, we have about 7 minutes left, maybe. You can pose your questions, and then when it's time to close up shop, I'll let you know. So our social media coordinator, Angel, just put up a banner at the bottom. It says, please comment your questions below. You are welcome to do that, or I can just talk to myself, or talk to the camera, or talk to the microphone. Nance wants to know if we're planning on doing these again anytime soon. Honestly, Nance, we're not sure. We would like to do as many of these types of things as we can, either a Facebook Live or a Zoom webinar, because it's out of the ordinary. It's different than what we do when we teach standard notary classes or motor vehicle classes. And I think it makes a lot of people happy. And we want to keep you engaged. So the plan is that we will as much as we can. I'm sorry I'm not looking at you because I'm looking down to see when the questions come in. It does look kind of odd. Again, any questions that you have, if it's something that needs research, I'll let you know. I'll ask you to send an email, and we can look into whatever question you have. If you're a member, of course, you can always call customer service at 800-944-8790 with any questions that you have. You can chat with one of our representatives through Live Help on our website, notary.org. Is our office physically open? Our office is physically open at this point. I'm not there, but our representatives are there. I'm assuming maybe you want to come in and get something notarized as a member. You can still do that. We do have limited hours for that. So if you're not aware of that, you want to call customer service in advance to find out when you can come. Or maybe if you want to order something or pick something up, once again, call customer service first to make sure that you're coming at the right time. Are we going to develop training for loan signing agents? That has been on the back burner for a very long time, Lisa. At this point in time, the answer is no, mainly because there are other organizations that have that covered. And I hate to say that, but our focus is on Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania notaries and Pennsylvania notary law. And signing agent work is really a national thing. So, and honestly, if you were to ask me or ask anyone who knows about notary work, there is no legal requirement for you to have training to become a signing agent. With that said, there are signing organizations that have made that a requirement for people that do signings for them. But at the present time, we're not planning on developing any training. Okay, we have about 2 minutes left. If you have any final questions before we sign off. What about card agents? Is the training available online or otherwise? For card agents and full agents and dealers that are agents, you are actually required to have training before you start offering service, and then every 2 years after that. We do offer that training online. You can call customer service to find out more about that. And beginning in September, we will be offering those classes around the state in person again. So once again, you can call customer service for more information, or you can go to our website, notary.org, and go to the education tab, and you can find out when and where those classes are. So it looks like we are about out of time. I thank everybody for attending. I hope you enjoyed this particular format. Instead of us just sitting here and fielding questions for a half an hour, we decided to change it up and ask you questions. And again, I'm very proud of all of you for using your notary knowledge and putting it to good use. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in and asking so many great questions. For more updates from PAN, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you have suggestions for topics you'd like our instructors to cover in the future, let us know in the comments. See you next time.